What's up, guys? It is Friday, January 27th. It's 10:57 a.m. and this is the crypto newsletter. So diving right into it, we got Bitcoin, Ethereum technical analysis. Bitcoin, Ethereum consolidate ahead of U.S. consumer sentiment data. No wonder why it's been so kind of like in a range. Bitcoin consolidated on Friday as traders prepared for the release of the upcoming consumer sentiment figures from the U.S. Following a move to a 5-month high on Thursday, prices were once again below 23K. Ethereum slipped, moving below 1,600 in the process. 23K, 23,300. Personally, for me, I'm like, all right, let's go for Bitcoin. But for Ethereum, I'm looking for 1,600 to hold above. And then we can say, all right, Ethereum's ready to go. So that is key, crucial. Now, I wanted to see when that data was being released, probably likely on Monday or Thursday. Monday or Tuesday, something like that. Now let's go to the next thing, because Russian finance minister says BRICS group to consider common currency. This was 2 days ago. Russian finance minister says BRICS group to consider common currency. Lavrov says idea will be discussed at upcoming summit this August in South Africa. We're going to have to add that to our list for 2023 summary of events. So I'm going to put that on my little notepad. All right. So foreign minister, not finance minister. Sergey Lavrov said on Wednesday that Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, BRICS countries, will discuss creating a common currency at the group's forthcoming summit this August in South Africa. Serious, self-respecting countries are well aware of what is at stake, seeing the incompetence of the masters of the current international monetary and financial system, and want to create their own mechanisms to ensure sustainable development, which will be protected from outside dictates. It's in this direction that the initiatives that have been voiced recently about the need to think about creating our own currencies within the framework of BRICS. The minister added that Russia and Angola have a firm intention to develop cooperation in all areas despite illegal Western pressure. He said that the West uses the same colonial methods of which it exploited developing continents, and continues using them to plunder foreign countries and continues using them to plunder foreign countries and uses resources of global importance to its advantage. By its actions, the West has proved that all the values and mechanisms of globalization that itself created and promoted, including the inviolability of property, fair competition, the presumption of innocence, can be trampled on at any moment and can also betray its allies at any moment. This is proved by the practice of not so long ago events in Afghanistan, Iraq, and during the Arab Spring of 2011. At a separate meeting with Angolan counterpart, he said that Russia supports the idea of reformation of the UN Security Council to increase the representation of African, Asian, and Latin American countries. He said he briefed his Angolan counterpart on the situation in Ukraine and drew his attention to West's actions, which are using Ukraine for years for waging a hybrid war against Russia. Ukraine was also used to carry out a frankly colonial policy towards the Russian-speaking population of Ukraine. And he ordered a stop to this anti-Russian course and to prevent turning Ukraine into a territory for creating threats for Russia. Moscow launched its special military operation last February, and he said that they support the principle of non-interference, called on Russia to Ukraine to declare a ceasefire and start a dialogue to talk to each other. There we go. Now we have Inside the World Economic Forum, Circle, Ripple, reflect on Davos 2023. All right, so over here they're talking about a handful of cryptocurrency industry players who took part in workshops at the World Economic Forum annual meeting paint a picture of increased collaboration within the space for 2023. Key figures from the wider cryptocurrency space painted a picture of increased dialogue and collaboration at the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos. Cryptocurrencies blockchain remained but a small part of the projects and initiatives discussed and workshopped at the annual WEF conference high in the Swiss Alps. However, an increased number of sessions focused on the sector suggests that the wider world is looking for synergies between traditional finance and DeFi. So it goes into it. So more than a Ripple's team rented out office space in Davos to conduct meetings and business during the World Economic Forum conference. Cointelegraph met Ripple's APAC manager director, Broken Twistle, inside their Davos hub to discuss the firm's involvement at this year's conference. He painted an interesting picture as an individual who has been to past World Economic Forum annual meetings in different roles for different companies and organizations from as early as 2009. The presence of crypto and blockchain industry participants has come to the fore in recent years. What you notice over time is the crowd changes, the promenade changes. Certainly with crypto over the past few years, that has been the case. In May 2022, you could not walk down the promenade without being offered a Bitcoin pizza. However, the prolonged downturn across conventional and crypto markets, coupled with seismic moves or seismic events like the collapse of FTX late last year, has made a noticeable mark on the number of crypto ecosystem participants that set up shop at the conference this year. The likes of FTX, who had a stall at the conference last year, was nowhere to be seen. Instead, blockchain infrastructure providers like Filecoin and Hedera had a notable presence alongside the likes of Circle. Right there. Other firms maintained a presence outside the conference at their own event, like CV Labs Blockchain Hub, and at Davos Hotel Europe, GBBC's Blockchain Central as well too. And he drew a silver lining around the decreased number of crypto stalls along the promenade, suggesting that more fruitful dialogue has been possible at the World Economic Forum conference. It's definitely more muted now, but we're actually having a really good World Economic Forum. With some of the noise and hype gone, the conversations and ability to go deep present more of an opportunity. Then he goes into this and says he highlighted his belief that progress was being made in terms of dialogue and understanding of crypto, given that the number of panels within the event had increased from 2 sessions in 2022 to 7 in 2023, stating if you think about the two parallel tracks, the industry pushing the agenda outside on the street around Davos and around the region, and then what's going on inside. That infiltration over time, why it's important, why regulators and banks need to talk about it, and why it should be a broader topic than just what's happening at a nightcap here or a panel there along the promenade. Whether there should be more representation from crypto and blockchain ecosystem inside the WEF is a more complex question to consider. He believes topics with broad reach outside of crypto need wider representation with projects, protocols, and tools that offer value insights into vexing global issues, he said. You need all those different forums represented, but I also think we have to use those slots wisely, use the panels wisely when you do get in front of this group. Make sure that people understand real world utility. Then if we go down here, so then it's talking about Circle and their payment using USDC as a payment solution. And then it goes into driving collaboration in a fragmented world. It talks about, so the chairman of Hedera, Brett McDowell, also gave his perspective, having been involved both inside the WEF conference and along the promenade. He goes into his whole thing here. I'm not going to dig deep into it, but he goes into one thing that we've been banging the drum on. The environmental, societal, and governance framework of focus of the WEF is another sector that could leverage the many applications of blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Dowell from HBAR said, this is a trust technology. It's the perfect backbone. I mean, I always say backbone, right? It's the perfect backbone for ESG applications at scale, and this is what we need. We need network effects. The Hedera chairman said that the WEF was actively considering blockchain-based tools and applications to tackle topics like climate change and power digital economies and tokenization of assets. We're talking about digital commodities. Think about natural gas, oil, gold, silver. They power these physical devices that we, like our phones. Then we're going to have these digital commodities that are going to power these new digital Web3 applications and tokenization of assets. So the organization might still be at a stage where it's learning about the power of these relatively new technologies, but the growing discourse inside the World Economic Forum emerged as a positive takeaway from Davos 2023. There it is. So this person saying why I think Bitcoin could be key to saving the environment, I think she's bonkers. We're not going to dive into it because, I mean, come on, let's go into the next one. 322 million XRP tokens transferred by whales in the past 24 hours. Is it the end of Ripple versus SEC lawsuit? I'd hope so. XRP price has witnessed a compressed price action, which is limited to certain prices and levels ever since the SEC dragged Ripple to the court of law. While the closure of the case is fast approaching, the whale action has also intensified to a large extent, indicating yet another massive price action approaching fast. Yeah, I don't know how much I trust this article. Let's go to the next thing. So if Powell keeps hiking rates, you have the Weimar Republic, says Barry Sternlicht. He has to keep printing dollars to pay interest on the deficit. That will really slow the economy. He risks the entire financial stability of the global economic system. Yeah, they're running a big problem here as far as what they're doing is kind of putting them they're kind of digging their own grave in a sense. Let's hear it.
Has peaked. The biggest increase in last month and has remained is the renter equivalent number in the data, which was 0.8 positive. In reality, that was 0.34 negative. The lag in the housing data is completely distorting inflation. And since rents are falling, market rents are falling month to month, not year over year, month to month. They're going this way. You will see a negative number there, and it will look like energy. It'll come all the way down. So inflation will come down. And people who talk about keep raising rates, I hear these guys on your morning show, I want to strangle them. Volcker didn't have a $32 trillion deficit. So here's the actual interest number. The federal government spent the following amount of money the last 4 years on interest expense. In 2019, $375 billion, then $345, then $352, and last year, $475 billion. So here were the average interest rates those years. They were 0.5 in 2020, 0.1 in 2021. That's the average. These are LIBOR, SOFR rates. In 22, they were 1.9%. This year, they'll be 4.5%, 5% of 30 trillion.
We'll be up to $1 trillion.
$1 trillion plus
on interest.
And on interest, and that's so the budget that the White House put out has a $400 billion number that they didn't update it for today's interest rates. This is their November number out of the White House, which is where they put the 1.7 trillion, this fiscal spending. So what he faces, if he keeps going up, you have the Weimar Republic. He has to keep printing dollars to pay interest on the deficit. And you wind up printing and putting tremendous pressure now on all ends of the curve, right? So that will really slow the economy if the 10-year goes to 5 because this thing gets out of control. And who's going to buy our paper? And we've pissed off the Chinese. They're not going to be buying our paper. And most countries are pulling back to their borders now with deglobalization. The banks will support themselves. So he risks this if he keeps going, these academics in Washington. He risks the entire financial stability of the system. You have the IMF and the World Bank telling you to stop raising rates. Because what we do in our little holes in Washington with our Federal Reserve banks impacts the entire globe's economy. And it's not like it's strong in Europe. But they can't afford higher rates.
But maybe this is what we need.
But it's coming.
Okay, so if rates go back down, then we'll say, hey, everything's fine.
She has a good shot of having a soft landing if he stops. He can have a mild recession is fine. I mean, it'll be fine. You don't destroy all these manufacturing jobs. We bring back, we onshore, we fix supply chains. He'll be good. I'd be bullish. If we keep this up, and obviously the political gridlock, and don't focus on things that matter in Washington, I would be.
If rates are higher, maybe we'll stop. That's what I'm saying. If we go right back to where you want to go, then we'll be like, okay, it's not $1 trillion in interest. We're back down to $300 billion in interest expense. But if we really are spending $1 trillion every year,
rates, but 2.5% low rate.
How do we finally? How can we spend on other things if our debt service is so high? And if it goes to $35 trillion,
we need a plan to reduce the long-term deficit. But here's.
There we go. So, yeah, they're driving themselves into a hole here. Then we have this. Now, SWIFT saying it's ready for the new global payment standard for 2023. They've been getting ready since 2017. This has been years in the works. October 2017, High Value Payment Plus, the next stage step towards ISO 2022 harmonization. Last year, SWIFT, along with major global banks and market infrastructures, formed the HVPS Plus Market Practice Task Force. While ISO 2022 standards are always evolving, stable best practices for high-value payments have been published, and the industry now has a roadmap to harmonization. As cross-border payments grow in both volume and complexity, there's an increasing need for interoperability. The same narrative and language has been going on for years now, stretches even further back than 2017. Many geographic borders have practically disappeared and markets have reorganized along industry rather than geographic lines. Financial markets are adapting to reflect these changes. Trade, JP Morgan, future-proofing corporates for the coming digital revolution in trade. Then you have this, the application of DLT is bringing the fully digitized future of trade finance ever closer. But in order to capitalize on these opportunities, corporates must lay the groundwork by developing the digital solutions that are already available to them today. There we go. Now let's go to the next one. We got bill to establish Bitcoin and crypto as a form of payment in state agencies has been introduced to the New York Senate. This is breaking today. So a bill has been introduced. New York introduces crypto as a form of payment. The regulation and implementation of cryptocurrencies has often been debated topic since the start of 2023. Following the massive losses accrued by the industry last year, the fraudulent activities that were uncovered, there's undoubtedly been an emphasis placed on regulatory agencies grappling with how to approach these assets. Earlier this week, we saw Arizona attempt to introduce a bill that made Bitcoin and other cryptos legal tender in the state. Now New York has followed suit with a bill being introduced to the Senate to make cryptocurrencies as an acceptable form of payment in state agencies. There we go. Now let's go to the next thing. So there's a lot I could say about how singularly impactful Monica Long has been to Ripple's growth. For now, I'll just leave you with she is brilliant, strategic, and has the ability to pick up and learn skills like no one ever seen before. Congrats, Monica, because now Monica Long is the new president of Ripple. So she's the new president. Ripple names Monica Long as president right there. Then we got this. Stablecoins are rushing back into cryptos. This is not the time you want to be on the sidelines. That's for sure. Look at that. Look at all the stablecoins being deployed right now. Whenever you see a huge spike like that, bottom. Huge spike, bottom and bull run. Huge spike, bottom. We did go a little bit lower, but overall, I mean, that's the bottom. Right here, short-term bottom. Right here, short-term bottom. We went down. Now we're spiking. I mean, like the stablecoins being deployed are dwarfing even back here. Back in when we hit our high in November 2022. I mean, to me, with all this money flowing in, it's not like it's going to go just magically disappear. We're going to see that go into the cryptos and we're going to see continuation here. All right, now let's see the next. November 28th cycles theory from CryptoCon. According to this theory, Bitcoin might have seen its bear market lowest low last November 28th. His work definitely worth a follow, in my opinion. You can look at this kind of analysis he does, and it's every November 28th. You can see he has like this 1, 2, 3, 4 cycle one. Yeah, I mean, we had plotted this out as well too. We said, hey, we're probably going to go into a bull run from 2023 to 2025. And then from 2025 to 2026, we'll see a bear. Yeah, it's likely being the case. So let's see this. So started the bull run the first year, November 28th, boom, went. November 28th, top. I'd say November 28th, December 28th, around this, we found our bottom. It was very close. Then November 28th, the following year, we broke out of our bottom. Then November 28th, the following year after that, parabolic rally. It's like equivalent to here. So you have this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and then 2 is the top, just like here, November 28th. Then 3, November 28th, the bottom, just like here. 4, right here, we had kind of our second double bottom. We did have COVID come back in here, but ultimately we started to rally into the red, parabolic, orange right here, top, and then right here, November 28th, the bottom. So what's next is we might go sideways. We might kind of pull a 2019, come up to maybe 30 to 40K, maybe even higher, and then come back down the tail end of the year. And then 2024, we could go into our phase of mania, right? We're in that time frame that we know the timeline. So it all makes sense, especially with Bitcoin halving coming up. We have all these initiatives taking place. It's definitely the case. So well-formed structure Bitcoin with stochastic behavior indicates that the next all-time high will be at 200K and next floor will be at 70K. That could be the case, but ultimately the point of the story is here. When you really zoom out, you look at the monthly time frame and you look at these momentum indicators. If you're a part of the Stargate Discord and you watch all the market updates, I talk about this all the time. When you go out to the higher time frames and you really zoom out and you take a big picture look at it, I mean, every single time we are in a bear market, we get into the zone here. And when we cross up from the zone, that's when we see the bull market kick in. Then here, bear market, we cross up from the zone, bull market kick in. Bear market, we cross up from the zone. I mean, look. And then even back here, 2012, same thing. Ever since its inception, there was Mt. Gox back here. There was all this same kind of similar storyline of kind of everybody being scared. Oh, this exchange is going to collapse, or this hack is going to happen, or this is going to happen. I mean, we're seeing the facts right here. Every single time this happens, we do go into a next bull market rally. And of course, the past can't predict the future, but sure does rhyme. And I would place a bet on this as when we look back maybe 6 months from now and we look back to January of this year, we're going to be like, yeah, well, clearly that was the bottom. Now let's go to the next one. Interoperability. Let's hear it.
And a number of central bank governors participated. Euroclear participated. SWIFT participated. And I thought one of the biggest takeaways was about interoperability. Yeah. That different sovereignties have different ecosystems, and yet we're all participating in a global digital economy. It's where we're all headed. And so when it comes to the interoperability that migrates from the old world to the new, if that doesn't exist, liquidity is going to be trapped in the old ecosystem.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And this is where the work comes in and why the forum is so useful, because we bring together these different voices to come up with that interoperability solution, because we are not small villages kept to ourselves. We are global, as you just said.
There we go.
CBDC.
On point. Then we have this, the development behind Sorbin. So this is Stellar's smart contracts. Continues. This guy from Stellar, likely currently Stellar.org, explains the decision to use an interpreter, specifically WASMI and not a JIT for Sorbin's initial release. I do not know what that means, but all we got to understand about this is Stellar's launching native smart contracts, and that's big. Then we have this from Red to Green, bear market's over. Another thing showing us bear market's over. 13 months, we got the Heiken-Ashi candles. This is likely the monthly chart. You see 13 red candles, boom, bear market over. Then from this top, this bottom, 12 months of red candles, very likely, boom, bear market over. We're seeing the first green candle, and especially because in the next few days here, we're going to see this monthly candle close, the writing's on the wall. It could be a good next kind of 3 months, 4 months. Usually when you see a positive move in January, usually that will last to like May, June, and then you'll see it kind of cool off around the summer. And then by September, October, it'll kick back up again. I likely see that to be the case. And I'd hope that's the case, because then we know it ahead of time. So then we know, hey, we have the bullish bias of we're going to keep rallying up here to like May, June-ish. And then we can take our profits, kind of chill for the summer, take it a little bit easy, rest up for when we come back in the fall, and then we can kind of strike again on that. That would be the perfect scenario. Then we have this change the world overnight, Cambrian Explosion. This is Chris Larson from Ripple.
There have been more people in the world with cell phones than plumbing.
Yeah.
And the World Bank has a gap that every adult in the world should have a so-called bank account in their phone by 2020. Don't think we're going to hit 2020, but we're going to hit it in the 2020s. So the technology is converging. Everybody's got the device in their hand if we can just figure out how to make the system connect them.
Yeah, we have so many of the component parts that are in place, but the cell phone represents kind of two of the components, right? It's, gives you a lot of the application layer on the top, right? Just like, Facebook and Google on the web. It gives you a lot of the databases or ledgers through the phone companies perhaps, or through banks at the bottom. But there's that missing layer of what is the IP, what is the shipping container that's going to wire them all together. And that's the part, thankfully, that's being introduced. Now, when you combine then those new apps, those new devices, those new databases with an interoperability layer, boom. I mean, that changes the world overnight. And I think we're so close to that. And that will create this Cambrian explosion of, some of the companies here that will suddenly have this global platform to be working on, which will make fintech so much easier. Everybody in fintech knows how difficult it is just within a country, let alone to try to go global. That is all about to change, and that's great for everybody.
100%. It's going to be the holy grail. And then we got this document in Bitcoin. The IMF invited Natalie Smolensky. She is the head of business development at Highland, to discuss the future of money. She told them to drop CBDCs and adopt Bitcoin. Let's hear it. Oh, that's 10 minutes. Never mind. But very interesting. So Bitcoin as an alternative to CBDCs. I don't know why she would go there trying to present that to the IMF. But if the bill becomes enacted into law, Bitcoin will have the same status as the US dollar in the state and will be accepted as a medium of exchange. You have Senate of Arizona pushing a bill to make Bitcoin legal tender there. Then we have this. U.S. institutions account for 85% of Bitcoin buying, in very positive sign. U.S. institutions account for 85% of Bitcoin buying, in very positive sign. Institutional investors are not giving up on crypto, with recent data pointing to as much as 85% of Bitcoin buying being the result of American, and it's likely institutional players. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I just got an email, I think it was today or yesterday, that now you can purchase crypto in your Fidelity account. So I could, if I have a brokerage account of Fidelity retail, I can now have a Fidelity crypto account. I mean, we're seeing it all play out, and they're opening up the floodgates because they know what's around the corner. Then we have this. World Bank Group President David Malpass announced senior leadership team appoints to help meet increasing global challenges, sharpen focus on global public goods and knowledge, and maintain momentum on operational delivery to better development outcomes. So very pleased to announce new rules at World Bank. They're shuffling people around, new kind of senior leaders there, and they're, global public goods, digital global public goods especially, we've been talking about that. Then we have this. So Polkadot restates its case that DOT has morphed away from security status. They're trying to say they're not a security. Then you have Bitcoin follows the path. And this is what I showed in the Discord too. I'm watching the 2-hour chart, 200 MA. We're comparing that to 2019. And if we break the 200 MA on the 2-hour chart for Bitcoin, then it's likely short-term bearish, but still macro bullish. But yeah, that's to be the case. And it does seem like something like this could easily play out. That's exactly what happened in 2019 when we came out of the bear market. A lot of people are stuck on the sidelines and they don't believe it, but they will soon. The offices of BitHum official were raided on Thursday as part of an investigation into price manipulation of a coin listed on the South Korean crypto exchange. I think I shared that yesterday. Then we have this. According to the Saudi central bank, no decision has been made regarding the introduction of CBDC in the kingdom. They say ongoing CBDC experiment focused on domestic wholesale use cases. A lot of wholesale. They're saying it's being carried out in conjunction with local banks and fintechs, and it's presently focused on domestic wholesale use cases. The central bank has said. Meanwhile, the Saudi Minister of Finance had said CBDCs can be a fantastic tool which can be used by developing countries as a social safety net. Interesting verbiage. Then we have this. New U.S. Senate bill would require all restaurants, cafes, and vending machines on Capitol Hill to accept Bitcoin payments. Interesting. And then lastly, here's a playbook to eliminate gas stoves and other gas appliances, include secret meeting details. Ironic that the Rockefellers are involved since they invented the oil economy. Time to stop the green new scammers before they stop our economy cold. Let's hear it. Consumer Product Safety Commissioner threat of a federal ban on gas stoves this month has channeled the goals of left-wing billionaire think tanks that are making significant progress in pushing communities to eliminate fossil fuels. The Rocky Mountain Institute, their energy, I thought that was Energy Web Foundation, but we got to remember the Rocky Mountain Institute, Energy Web Foundation, they were like the founding members, or they started the Crypto Climate Accord. The United Nations shared Rocky Mountain Institute and Energy Web as on their website as an alternative to finding sustainable solutions and decarbonizing blockchains. So they're tied up. We know that they're a part of the inner circle. Web environmental groups is stepping up the campaign to persuade states and local communities to switch to all electric energy. The Rocky Mountain Institute, the Sierra Club, and other green groups are working successfully to ban gas stoves and other gas appliances in communities throughout the U.S. as part of an aggressive move to implement a net zero global economy by 2050. Some observers say that the effort gained momentum in July 2019 during a 2-day meeting hosted by the Rockefeller Brothers Fund at the Rockefeller Family Mansion. A strategy session paired dozens of high-ranking state officials with energy groups, green energy groups, including the Rocky Mountain Institute. There we go. So that's it, guys. That's the crypto newsletter. I'm going to get back on the charts because I definitely want to get back in that day trading dogs chat and kind of chop it up with you guys, make some trades today. We got to bring home the bacon, that's for sure. Then I was going to do a deep dive on Stellar. I've been promising that, but also a deep dive on Stellar and Stellar's relationship with Chain, XCN. So Chain has been heavily kind of tied up in the PDFs, the documents, the deep dives for a very long time. I remember seeing Chain in 2017. And then 2021, I came across Chain on CoinMarketCap and I couldn't believe it that they launched a token because I had my eyes on it for a while, but there was never a token. Chain is a part of the inner circle and they're heavily tied up with Stellar. So I'm going to do like a hybrid deep dive Stellar Chain, show you some connections, show you a little bit of how I go about my deep dives. And that's going to be fun. So if you're not already in the Discord, click the link in the bio, come join the Discord, click subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Definitely join the Discord. I want to say what up. I like to talk on a deeper level. So we can only do that in the Discord. So head on over there. I'll see you there. Say what up. I'll say what up too. And I'll see you guys in the next video.